Alright everyone, so today I wanted to do a breakdown of the new crafting system and tell you guys which items you want to craft, but more importantly, which items you do not want to craft. And that's really important because these items and materials that you need for crafting, Plarium threw a bunch of them our way just to get us used to the system, but just because they did that does not mean that they are going to be super easy to get in the future. And because you need a whole bunch of different materials to get, and while people are still figuring out the system, a lot of people don't really know which ones are going to be easy to get, which ones are going to be more difficult and much more limited in the future, and you want to avoid the mistake of spending the materials that are going to be more difficult to get in the future on items that are not worth it right now. And in order to fully understand this, I really do have to go through and explain the two different layers of the crafting system and where the different materials come from. So the first layer is the thing that you see at the top here. It's your top level, and these are the materials that are absolutely required in order to craft the item. So as long as you have the required ingredients here at the top, you will technically be able to craft an item. But that does not mean that you want to, and I would be very careful and not make the mistake that I did with some of my ingredients that they threw our way and just instantly start crafting stuff, because the bottom layer is very, very important. Now, technically, while the bottom layer is not required in order to craft, this is what's going to end up giving you bonuses to your actual item, the rarity, the rank. It'll have a higher chance of getting like a certain type, like a weapon or a helmet, and also even a certain chance of getting, things like certain substats. And this is really, really important, especially when it comes to certain substats like speed, which is obviously something people are really, really looking for. So you want to avoid spending your very difficult ingredients crafting something, completely forgetting about the bottom layer, which is obviously going to boost your chances of actually getting what you're looking for by quite a bit. Now, let's go back to the top layer here, because with the top layer, there are several different types of ingredients, and some of them are obviously going to be much easier to get than others, and it's really important to understand that. Now, if you actually go through here and take a look at all the items, there is one ingredient here that you're going to actually see on the left side that is required for absolutely every single craft, and that is this blue ingot right here, or blue border silver ingot. Now, this is going to be acquired from Classic Arena, and it is required for every single craft. Now, mixed feelings about this, of course, because what this means is that you do have to participate in Classic Arena and win battles in order to end up getting these materials in order to do any crafting at all. If you completely neglect Classic Arena, you're not going to be getting these, and you won't be able to do any crafting, even if you get a bunch of all of the other materials. So, new players, definitely mixed feelings about this, but as a more advanced player, you might end up having too many of these, and don't get too overwhelmed with that, because it might not make a whole lot of difference, considering that there are many other ingredients which might be more difficult to get. Now let's get into the other ingredient which you can get on a somewhat consistent basis. Like Classic Arena, you can pretty much always jump into it as long as you've got arena tokens. They refresh every hour. Now the other somewhat consistent ingredients that you can end up getting are going to end up coming from Faction Wars. Now you've got a certain number of keys that you get every single day for Faction Wars, so it's important to be working on that. And obviously this whole big crafting update has really put a lot more emphasis on not just Classic Arena, but also on Faction Wars. And there's going to be 3 different rarities. The Classic Arena tokens only have one rarity. It's just this Magisteel right here. But with Faction Wars, there's 3 different rarities. There's going to be the blue ones, there's going to be the epic ones, which are purple, and then there's going to be the orange ones, which are legendary. And if you actually end up going to Faction Wars, you'll see that you cannot actually get the epic and legendary ones until you get to certain stages. Like you could see here that the 1 in the upper left means that you could only get the rare materials. The 1 or 2 means you're going to get rares or epics. Then it bumps up to only epics. You won't get rares anymore. And then at stage 13 is the first stage where there is a chance for you to end up getting legendary materials. So if you want to do any crafting that requires legendary materials, you have to at least have some of your teams doing stage 13 or higher in Faction Wars, or you won't be able to get that. Now, when it comes to that, there are a couple of different types, and the Resilience and Perception are better sets to kind of illustrate this. Now, you can see this one right here, which has got that green icon in the lower left. These come from Faction Wars, and that's just one type of material right here. Legendary Soul Stones, still those 3 different categories, right? You got the rare blue ones, the purple epic, and then the orange legendary. But then there is another one as well, and it's this right here, the Legendary Bloodstone. Also comes from Faction Wars. It's probably just going to come from a different set of crypts, you know, with different factions, but it's still a Faction Wars ingredient. And just like the last one, you've got your, you know, blue for rare, purple for epic, and orange for legendary. So that consists of all of the Faction Wars ingredients for now. Who knows if they'll add more in the future? I have a feeling like they will, so especially with the look of those icons right there. But now let's talk about another ingredient, the third one, and this one is potentially the most important one. You need these in order to craft the top two sets, the Swift Parry and the Deflection. You do not need those in order to craft the Resilience or the Perception sets. But this right here, the Core Hammer, is a special ingredient that can only be acquired from events and tournaments. Now, what does this mean? This is the first ingredient that we know of right now where it is not consistent. Like with the arena, you can go and you can consistently run the arena in order to farm that ingredient. Faction Wars, every day you get a refresh on your Faction Wars keys. You get even more of them now from Advanced Quests. You can consistently farm that ingredient. These ones right here, it's all going to depend on how many of them Plarium decides to put in events and tournaments. And I want to caution you guys, if you are watching this video shortly after it is released, do not be fooled into thinking that the amount of them that we see right now in events and tournaments is consistently going to be the amount of them that we get in the future. It's going to be all up to Plarium's discretion, just like with tournaments. We see like Dragon tournaments where sometimes there's epic books, sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's just chickens and, you know, brews and not great rewards. It's going to be the same way with the crafting materials. So you want to be really, really careful when it comes to using those, knowing that there is no consistent way in order to get those. So what I would avoid here is, first of all, crafting the lower star level of the new sets that require these core hammers right here. If you're going to use your core hammers, I would definitely use 10 of them instead of 5 to go for a 5 or 6 star rather than a 4 or 5 star, because obviously you want to get equipment that is really, really going to be super useful for the end game, especially considering how incredibly valuable these sets are. You know, you are essentially crafting the gear sets that were up until now only available from platinum tier players, and obviously, you know, you want to be making the best possible gear from these. So I would avoid the 4 and the 5 star ones, but also, very importantly, I would also avoid the 5 and 6 star ones until you start to use ingredients from the bottom layer. I haven't talked about that yet. Everything so far has been the top layer, but you don't just want to craft something right away when you have the top layer ingredients. You want to be very, very careful and do not craft it until you've figured out the best way to use your bottom layer ingredients as well, because this is going to actually allow you to get a better chance to actually get what you are looking for. So on the, the first one right there on the left side, you've got your rank charms. And what these do is quite simply double your chances of getting a higher rank. And you can see here in the crafting chances what those actually are right there. So you can see the 5 and 6 star ones are, 75%. 3 out of 4 of them will be 5 star. Only 1 out of 4 will be a 6 star. So most of the time you're going to get a 5 star. If you use the charm though, essentially what that does is that doubles your chances of getting a legendary. So it's now 50-50. The second one is going to double your chances of getting a higher rarity. So you can see here that the chances of getting something, 67.5% rare, 25% epic, 7.5% legendary. So most of the time, you're just going to end up getting rares, and then you'll end up getting, some epics, but rarely you will end up getting a legendary. And you can see here that those odds change quite a bit now when you use that charm. Now, instead of mostly getting rares, you're mostly going to end up getting epics with some rares and a double chance to get legendaries. This third one right here is going to double your chances of getting a specific piece of gear. These ones I think are very, very important, especially considering that, you've got your top pieces of gear, which do not have main stats that vary, right? And then you've got your, bottom row, which is going to be your gloves, your chest, and your boots. And you're probably going to need to craft more of these because not only do you need to end up getting good substats, but, like if you're crafting boots, for example, you want to end up getting speed as your main stat for boots as well. So that means that you're going to have to craft a lot of boots, and it doesn't matter how good the substats are. If they don't have speed, you're probably not going to end up using them anyway. So the very last one here of these bottom ingredients is going to be the Substat Charms, and these quite simply give you a 50-50 chance of rolling a certain thing when it comes to your craft. So, you know, 50% chance of HP, attack, so on and so forth. And it's not like you can only end up using one of these. You can end up using multiple of these here in order to craft an item, which is really cool. So, you know, that's why I say you do not want to craft without really considering which of your bottom layer ingredients you want to use, because those are really going to customize your chances of actually getting what you're looking for much, much higher than if you were to just craft the item right here without anything in the bottom layer. So obviously, as time goes on, we're going to learn a lot more about this crafting system. I'm sure they're going to release more stuff to craft in the future as well. And another thing I'm really looking forward to is just seeing how they actually play out the events and the tournaments to see how many of these you know, things that we actually get. Is it going to speed up? Are we going to get more of them? I would say it's pretty unlikely considering the amount of them we actually see here in tournaments. Like, that's pretty crazy right there. And if it does slow down, you know, how many less of them are they going to give us? And another thing I realized is that this also gives them the opportunity to now take other stuff out of the events where normally we had, you know, shards or brews or whatever it was, and now instead of that, we've got these charms instead. So it'll be interesting to see in the future compared to the old event rewards that we got before this was added to the game, you know, if the old stuff ended up technically being better, or if the new stuff with these new crafting materials is going to end up being better. So anyway, I threw enough info at you guys in this video. I'm going to leave it here. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to toss a quick like as well. And more raid videos should be popping up on the screen right about now, or in the suggested videos to your right or below. More guides, tutorials, and all that fun stuff. Feel free to check them out. But if not, have a fantastic day, everyone. Take care. This is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.